Hi, this is John Leonard. I'm a corporate lawyer with Fairfield and Woods in Denver, Colorado. Today, we're joined by one of my partners, Ryan Tharp, to talk about an aspect of corporate law. We have a video series on issues that our companies that we advise ask us about, and we have a series of videos that go through employment law. This one is a financing one. We'll do one on mergers and acquisitions, and so you can find this video series on our website. Please visit it, and we'll be updating it periodically. But today we're going to talk about financing and preferred stock with Ryan Tharp. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John. Glad to be here.
So what is preferred stock and how does it work?
Yeah, so every corporation has to have that minimum what's called common stock. And so preferred stock is not something that a corporation is required to have, but oftentimes if you're bringing on investors will demand that they receive preferred stock, and that's really because preferred stock has additional rights that can be negotiated, and rights and terms that accrue to it.
Yeah, so you started talking about it. When is preferred stock used? Do founders use it right out of the gates when they start a company?
Generally not. Generally, it's something that's granted to investors. You see it most frequently with larger investments of $1 million+ dollars. Traditionally, it's what venture capital investors will receive.
And we just did a video on convertible notes. So in the way this works, the founders put in some money, they may have a convertible note round, and then they would graduate up to preferred stock, might be a typical scenario.
That's a pretty typical scenario, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about as long as we're talking about typical things, let's talk about typical terms. If preferred stock is different than common stock, what kind of terms does preferred stock have typically?
Yeah, it's really breaks into two kind of big camps. One is on the economic side, and one is on the management side. Mostly on the economic side. What we're talking about is a preferred return or preferential liquidation preference, which basically means that when the company sells or if something bad happens and the company goes out of business, the preferred investors, holders of preferred stock, get a certain amount of money out of the company before all the other common shareholders get any distributions. And those provisions can be negotiated. There's kind of different flavors and varieties of preferred stock in terms of how much they get out and whether or not they participate as common, or does that happen or no, and when does it happen? But most fundamentally, it's they get an economic incentive for holding that stock.
Right. And all the cool kids say that they got a 1.5 liquidation preference or a 2x liquidation preference or something like that. And what they're talking about is what you were just talking about, is what's the minimum. It's a multiplier of what was invested as their liquidation preference. What other kinds of terms are negotiated or typical?
Yeah, the other typical terms that are negotiated on the economic side are if the company really does extremely well, they may be better off having common stock than getting their 1 or 2x return on their investment. So, then usually they have an option to convert to common stock and get more money, which they would do if they're entitled to more money, is doing that. And then another thing that sometimes gets negotiated, which when we represent companies, we advise them to avoid is what's called participating preferred, where they get both their liquidation preference out, their two times their investment, plus they participate on the common stock level. So that's also negotiated. And then the other big
quickly talk about the protective provisions. There's a list of things that are typically in a preferred stock agreement that preferred stockholders get veto rights over.
Yeah, so they do get veto rights, or they get approval rights for things like selling the company. They often get the right to put someone on the board of directors. So even if they have less than a majority, they have a specific right to put someone on the board of directors. And that really serves two purposes. One, it allows them to, help protect their investment, but kind of goes back to the philosophy of venture capital to begin with, which is that these people are putting money in to see this company succeed. They're not necessarily entirely passive investors in that sense.
No.
They can help advise the company and help ensure the company's success, and they do that by being involved in on the board level.
Yeah, smart money, right? Well,
Exactly.
look, there's a lot of documents around preferred stock. A lot of them, I guess, we can find on the National Venture Capital Association site. But a better way to talk about it is to call you or email you and talk some more about preferred stock. So
Happy to do it.
your contact information is on the next slide. Thanks for joining us today, Ryan.
Thanks, John.